Next session, it's a little bit different than usual because, you know, when we're building this program, and again, as I said yesterday, if you have any comments, suggestions, please be in touch, cedric@leweb'13. We usually try to have executives, as you've seen on stage, like a CMO of a big company. But for the next session, we decided to have someone that is not an executive, that is part of the building of more on the operation side than on the strategic side, and perhaps a little bit younger. And she will explain us a program that Nestle is doing to help young managers to be accelerated. So I will now call on stage for a conversation with myself, Emily Cloud, who's Digital Acceleration Manager at Nestle. Hi, Emily. You have a mic? Yeah. So, Emily, let's start with a little bit of introduction.
Okay.
Who you are and what it's on.
Am I on?
Yeah. Yeah, and explain us what you're doing here in Europe, because you're from the US, so you're a little bit in Geneva these days.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm actually a member of the digital acceleration team for Nestle. This started about 1.5 years ago. The idea is they take 12 to 14 people from all across the globe in 8-month missions to come to headquarters, so near the Geneva area. And yeah, so we stay for 8 months and we go through a slew of training. We go through projects. We learn not only from Nestle leaders and partners, but from each other. So for example, I'm from the US, but I sit next to someone from China. So I knew a lot about Facebook and Twitter, but now I know more about Weibo than I did before. And then I also sit next to Audrey from the UK, so I get her insight as well. And then, you know, all across the room, we have Indonesia, we have Greece, we have Poland. So it's just a collaborative space where we come in for 8 months. We learn from each other, we work on these projects, and then the idea is after 8 months, we go back to our home markets and we implement these projects, and then continue to kind of grow this team. There's been 3 sessions now, so there's about 35 of us out there. And all of these projects are based around pillars, right? So it's we have listening, engaging, inspiring, and transforming. Those are kind of the pillars of the DAT, yes. But it helps kind of keep us in buckets of what these projects are going to be and what our roles are going to be.
Okay. Just before you joined this acceleration program, were you a digital marketer or a usual marketer, like a product marketer or something?
Yes, I was in digital marketing at Nestle Purina. In St. Louis, Missouri, so in the US. And I was a focus on pet food, obviously, and we have a digital marketing team that works across a whole portfolio of brands.
So this program is a little bit like for startups, so you already knew a little bit, or not a little bit, it was your job, but you already knew about digital, but the idea behind this program is really to give you more tools, more expertise. 8 months is long. It's 8 months.
Seems long, but it went really fast.
So it's 8 months learning, just like if you're attending a school, or?
A little bit. So when I was I've only worked in pet food in my career so far. So I knew a lot about Facebook and how to put a cute puppy on Facebook. But I didn't know the entire portfolio of Nestle brands. And so that's part of the learning process. I've now learned about, things like the Kit Kat Android partnership. Different listening tools, different global partnerships that we have. So yeah, there's a big part of it that is learning in the training programs, but that's only the piece of it. Then the other piece of it is the projects that you get to work on, the exposure. They take people that are high potentials in digital marketing and just kind of build you up to hopefully be a leader in the organization.
Okay, and so now 35 people have done this program. Do you know if this is something Nestle want to have bigger in the next years, or will it be always like around 12 people per session?
Well, what's really interesting is it's evolved quite a bit already. So like I said, we've had 35 people go through, but now kind of this idea of having this center of people, people kind of call it the command center, although it's more than that, but we're in a room with 12 people and a bunch of screens, and it's very appealing to look at. So this idea of bringing listening to life through our projects and what we do is expanding. So there's already digital acceleration teams popping up with Nestle across the globe. So we have one in Spain, we have one in Italy, China, India. So will the number of people that come into the group grow? Likely not, because it's a good number to have around a dozen. But I could see the idea growing more and more across the globe.
You know, yesterday we talked a little bit with other brands, and so a lot of them explain that education, digital education, is really key for them within their teams. Do you know if this kind of the program you've been attending has inspired other brands that went to you or to your managers and said, "Yeah, we want to do the same. Help us to build something like that"? Are you aware of such other brands?
I think so. Like I said, with the digital acceleration teams going up across the globe, everybody has their own little unique spin to it. So for example, Italy has branded marketers come down to their digital acceleration team, and they go through the program. It's also inspired us to kind of teach not just the digital marketers, but even bigger. So we've done mentoring programs, teaching anybody who's interested on how to set privacy settings on their Facebook profile or how to do their first tweet, just so we can understand better what the platforms are so we can make better relationships. And
so it's almost the end for you next week. So you have to leave Europe before the ski session season. What was your main learning and challenge during such a program?
Main learning and challenge. Main learning is Nestle as an organization.
Okay.
I did 25 pet food brands, but we have over 2,000 brands. And just to see the various parts of the world and the different levels of maturity that they're at, and the tools that they use, and the trainings they go through, and the brand building techniques they do, I think I have such a more unique skill set to bring home now. That's the biggest learning for me. And then my biggest challenge is honestly probably leaving. You know, it's been an amazing experience, and it's interesting, and it's fast-paced, and it's always changing. And so it's kind of a challenge, but also an opportunity, because I want that to continue when I go home.
Okay, interesting. So we've been in touch because we were in conversation with the Pinterest team, and they told us that instead of inviting them, it could be interesting to invite you, because you did quite an interesting operation and partnership with Pinterest. So could you tell us a little bit more about it?
So like I mentioned, we have these digital acceleration team projects, and Pinterest was one of my projects. The idea is that the projects will be on emerging trends, growing platforms, market needs, things like that. So Pinterest was obviously a good fit. With new platforms coming up every day, we want to make sure we're very smart about providing resources to our brands, and not necessarily that everybody should just jump on the next big social platform. And so Pinterest is obviously very appealing to us, given some of their key topics like recipes, babies, pets, things like that. So we couldn't miss trying to partner with them, how fast they were growing. So what we've started to do with them is decide which brands it makes sense strategically to launch on Pinterest, and we've assisted them anywhere from verifying their Pinterest page to how many times should I pin a day, what kind of resources should I put behind it. And then we've been fortunate enough to partner with things like Rich Pins with Pinterest. So we've been one of the first partners there to launch Rich Pins on our Very Best Baking site in the US, and then also we're working with Nespresso.
Perhaps could you give more details about what a Rich Pin is?
Sure. So normally when you go to pin something online, it'll just take you to Pinterest and you'll pin the image. Rich Pins now allow us, let's take chocolate chip cookies, for example, on Very Best Baking. If you see a recipe that you like, you can pin it, and now not just the image pops up, but all of the ingredients and cooking instructions right there. And so things like that are just becoming more and more simple. And we're working with them on places pins. So now when we want to highlight pet-friendly places, we can pin it, and the location will be brought in on a map for you. So things like that have been really exciting for us. We've also been one of the first partners with Pinterest for their API. So another one, we highlight our most featured pins on some of our websites, so people can see what's popular at the time. Again, lends itself very well to recipes. So it's been an exciting partnership. It's been growing, and we just hope it continues to grow for next year with the opportunity of potentially paid media.
And so what's the objective for you of doing all these new things and using new tools from Pinterest? Is it like branding you wanna increase on the web? Is it like traffic you wanna generate to your website? But you're not e-commerce, so I'm not even sure you're selling your own products. So yeah, what's
all
your objective?
All of the
Oh,
above.
okay.
And it depends on the brand. So for Nespresso, the rich pins, when you pin something, it brings in all of the e-store product information. So that would be obviously to
Like
generate more
store,
sales.
yeah.
And then we don't think of Pinterest so much as a social platform. It's not people going through and seeing status updates. It's discovering things that they actually love. And with our products being there, it only makes sense. And we did a lot of looking into what's already being pinned. And there were so many pins out there, but we weren't. And so that's kind of how we're trying to partner and just further our relationships.
Okay. So what are the other platforms you're looking at? I mean, you said you want to pay attention if you're going to a new platform, that you have real interest and objectives, and you don't just try everything. But what's your guess on the next platform you'll go? Is it Snapchat?
Maybe Instagram and Snapchat. I heard something.
You're not on Instagram?
No, I am on Instagram. I just heard that today maybe Instagram's adding Snapchat type features. So maybe interesting to look at that.
So maybe it would be interesting as a brand to give promotion like that will be deleted within 10 seconds or something.
Yeah.
This is something, yeah.
Snapchat's one that's really interesting because of the amount of images being shared. You just can't ignore that. So we're all on the platform. We're playing with it a bit, but still trying to figure out kind of where it's headed.
Okay. And so part of this program, you say you are with other people coming from around the world. So what were your learnings from your colleagues that are doing things on digital from China, from, I don't remember other countries you mentioned, but what's the main ideas you got from your colleagues?
A lot. I have learned that privacy in Germany is very different from the States. I have learned that how people behave on Weibo, as I mentioned with China, and the differences between that and Twitter for us.
Could you detail, for example? I'm not familiar with Weibo at all. So.
I mean, it's just little things with how people engage with a piece of content. It's very comparable to Twitter to me, but just the amount of engagement is through the roof. So that's a big one. I've also learned how people create content. So content, we create with Nestle about 1,500 pieces of content a day.
Okay.
So
and
that's
what kind of content? Because 1,500 pieces of content is quite a big
number.
number.
On Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, everywhere. So what we're trying to figure out and what's kind of keeping us up at night is how do we continue to do that at scale and efficiently and optimize for our relationships with our consumers. And so that's been interesting to see how Poland thinks of content creation versus how Spain thinks of content creation versus Hong Kong. And we've all been able to kind of share best practices, and we're all taking a piece of that back home.
And content is the topic you'll address when you'll be back at Purina. That's what you told me, right?
Yes.
So, will it be content creation, content curation? We had Scoopit yesterday. How do you see this content marketing evolve in the next years?
It's a great question. So my focus will definitely be on the creation piece and a bit of the organization piece. So curation will touch in there, publishing will touch in there, things like that. I think it's just going to continue to evolve even further and rapidly. So we're trying to kind of figure out the best way to organize for it. One thing that we're doing is trying to stay on top of it. So we've formed this Silicon Valley Innovation Outpost. And what they're doing is they are talking with these new startups or new companies just to keep ahead of the trends so that we know what's coming down the pipeline. So that's one way that I see it evolving is they're kind of feeding things to us. What do we need to know to stay ahead of things? Yeah.
Okay. We have 1 minute left, so perhaps last question is, the main topic of the web is the next 10 years. So it's a lot about new technologies, new devices, how do we use data, and all the topics we can have on the main stage. What's the most exciting technology for you that will? What's your opinion? What will be the most exciting technologies that will change Nestlé in the next 10 years?
Such a big question.
Yeah, such a big question as the last question, but...
Yeah. Okay, so there's not one thing that I place all my money on at this time. One thing that's very interesting to me, I don't want to say it's 10 years ahead, because I hope we're much more advanced in 10 years than we are right now. But we had this workshop with the digital acceleration team a couple months ago, and we all got these wearable devices that everybody has. Doesn't always match my outfit, but it's been fun. So each of us have a different wearable device. Okay. So now I have the Jawbone up, and so I like it because it manages sleep, nutrition, and activity. And then I talk to Audrey from the UK right next to me, and she has the Pebble Watch. And so we can compare and contrast differences from how it'll be in Switzerland to how it'll be in the US and how it'll be in the UK, and if we'll stick with it and things like that. So I just think this whole idea of wearable devices and quantified self will just continue to evolve, and a close thing to watch.
Okay, perfect answer for a tough question. Emily, thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you.
I don't know you guys, but I learned a lot from your insights. So thank you very much.
Thank you.